Story 1. Update. I ghosted my family and fiance after what my sister did. Original post. I need a little advice on the matter as I don't know what to do anymore. I was 21 when my fiance asked me to marry him. He was the absolute light of my life. We had known each other since preschool. Our families were very close. He would come and have dinner with us on a daily basis and vice versa. He doesn't have any siblings, but I have 2 older sisters, which is very important as he was very close with them. We grew up together when we started dating. I don't think our parents stopped celebrating for weeks. He helped me deal with a lot of my anxiety. And even when I gained a little weight and my mother berated me saying he was going to leave me, he told her off and said he loved me for who I was, not for what I looked like, even though he claimed I was the most beautiful girl in the world to him. We were only engaged for 6 months before the incident. My middle sister, let's call her Nikki, was a very cold person. She never showed any affection. She only opened up to my fiance as she said she saw him as a brother, and he also helped her through a lot of her dark times, such as battling drug addictions and breaking the law. She and I never saw eye to eye. I loved her dearly because she was my sister, but didn't like her as a person. Out of the blue, she tells me that she wants to take me clubbing as we had never been together before, and she felt bad that she was so distant to me. I agreed, and that night we went out. Clubbing wasn't really my style, but once I had a few drinks, I loosened up a little and began having fun. The night was going smoothly until Nikki spotted a guy across the room whom she claimed she wanted to climb like a tree. She walked over to him, and within a few minutes she was back, and she had a sour expression on her face. I asked her what was up, but she said nothing. I kept pressing because I didn't want her night to be ruined. She then told me the guy didn't want her number, but he wanted mine instead. I told her he was a loser and there were plenty of guys around he would kill to be with a girl like her. She didn't budge though. She told me she needed to use the restroom and then we would leave. I waited for like an hour before. During this time I was sipping on a lot of different cocktails. I then started feeling really dizzy and lightheaded. I figured I'd just cab it home as I was certain Nikki had left. On the way out, I bumped into a friend of Nikki's whom she had briefly dated. He asked me if I needed a hand to my car and I explained I was getting a cab and he said he was getting ready to leave and we would share one. I told him okay, and we walked out of the club together and into the first cab we saw. I tried to find my phone in my purse, but I felt myself getting dizzier and dizzier. I don't remember what happened next as I blacked out, and the next morning I woke up on a hard sofa and my head was pounding. When I came to, I realized it was in Nikki's friend's house and my phone was sitting on the glass table in front of me, but it was flat. When he noticed I was awake, he offered some tablets and water and explained that I had passed out in the cab and he didn't remember my parents' address, so he just picked me up and took me back to where he laid me on the sofa. I told him I needed to go home as my fiance would be worried. He called a cab and I left. When I arrived at my parents' house, my mother, father, Nikki, my fiance, and his parents were all standing in the living room. I thought they were worried about me, but the instant I opened my mouth, my fiance asked, how could I do this to him? I tried to explain that my phone went flat, and then he went on screaming about how could I cheat on him. I was baffled. Why would he think that? I tried to explain the night's events, but I kept getting cut off. Nikki then chimed in and said I was lying. And how could I be so heartless to a man who had been there for me through thick and thin? She went on to say I kept flirting with random guys all night, and then when she went to the bathroom, she saw me leave with her friend. I told her what had happened, and she showed me photos on her phone where we were leaving, his hand on my back, ushering me outside. Yes, the photo did look horrible, and I was so drunk, I didn't even realize his hand was on my back at all. My fiance was so angry, he kept shouting, and his mom and mine were both crying. I then asked Nikki to call her friend, and he would confirm nothing happened. But when she called him, he told a completely different story. He said I begged him to take me back to his, and when we did, we slept together multiple times. I saw red and started crying and yelling at Nikki because I knew she had organized this whole thing to make me look bad. I begged my fiance to believe me, but he just shook his head and left. When everyone had cleared out, my mother slapped me across the face and told me to get out. I left and went to a friend's house where I stayed for a few nights. During those nights, I called my fiance crying and pleading with him to believe me that nothing had happened, but it all fell on deaf ears as he never returned any of my calls or texts. My mom texted me and told me she was kicking me out and that she couldn't believe I would do such a thing, and a lot of hurtful other slurs I don't think I could repeat here. She didn't even give me time to get my things as she threw everything out. I am now homeless. None of my family would take me in, as they chose my fiance and my mother's side. I was homeless and single in less than a day and a half. My entire world had been taken away because of Nikki's lies. Now for weeks I tried everything to get my fiance back and my family. The limit for me was when Christmas time had come and I went to my mother's house to try to reconcile. I was sleeping from couch to couch during this time. When I got to my parents' house, I knocked on the door, but no one answered. My friend then called me and told me she just saw on Facebook that my family were in another state celebrating Christmas, and they had posted pictures online. Everyone was there, my sister's parents, grandparents, and even my fiance and his family. When I saw the photos, I couldn't stop crying as they all looked so happy. I cried for days and days before deciding to block them all. I even returned my engagement ring. My friend knew someone a couple hours away who was looking for some help in his restaurant, and he even had living arrangements above where he worked so I could get rent at a cheap price and work at the same time. I wanted to start over with my life, as it hurt me that no one took my side and they all left me to fend for myself. I was able to move quickly and was doing well. The apartment was tiny and I had to work 10 plus hours almost every day, but I was able to save a lot of money. I'm not living in an apartment anymore. I was able to rent a much nicer condo, but I'm still working at the restaurant as an assistant manager. Now it has been roughly 2 years since I left and have not spoken to any of my family. I have no idea what is going on with them until I get a knock on my door. It was my ex-fiance. I was shocked, to say the least. All these feelings came rushing back, and all I wanted to do was jump into his arms. But then I remembered the pain that I had felt and tried to slam the door in his face, but he stopped and asked that I let him explain. He said that Nikki had gotten married, and she had confessed that she lied about the situation because she had found someone she loved so much and realized what a horrible thing that she had done. I asked him how he found me, and he said my friend told him. My entire family has been trying to get in touch with me and wanted to see me. I told him I needed to see if I wanted to even have them back in my life. He left, and I have been a mess since. I don't know what to do. I know I will never forgive Nikki. She could rot for all I cared. But it's hard because of my other family and fiance didn't know she was lying. But I also felt like they abandoned me way too quickly without letting me explain my side. I don't know if I should forgive them. Any advice would be much helpful. Thank you for taking the time to read. Now for the top of advices before reading the update. Frankly, I do not think I could forgive your ex-fiance or your family for abandoning you so quickly based on an incident that didn't even occur. It's all well and good for them to be sorry, but they didn't have to completely reinvent themselves on their own the way you did. I wouldn't be quick to forgive or to forget. I'd like to add the ex-fiance could have considered she was taken advantage of and raped when she was drunk or drugged, and had no consideration as to whether she was assaulted. Didn't ask if they should go to the hospital to get a rape kit done, along with preventative care for STDs, or get tested. I understand emotions can run high, but I bet he knew what kind of person the sister was if he literally helped her through a drug addiction and other issues. For clarity, being addicted to drugs isn't the problem, but the person that her sister is. There's no way he's not familiar with the type of person she was and what type of friends she might have had. He deserves 0 second chances. Edit. I only mentioned her fiance, but all of this applies to her family as well. Exactly. The part about him not even considering that she was drunk, and if something happened, it would be rape. We take into consideration the fact that she was literally abandoned and homeless from time to time, sleeping on couch to couch. She could have died. She could have gotten unlucky and something bad could have happened to her. Now for the update. Wow, guys. I don't even know where to begin. I am honestly so grateful for all the support, advice, beautiful messages, and awards you guys have gifted. I wish I could personally thank each and every one of you, and I did try my best to reply to every message. You guys are honestly so amazing, and I cried reading all the comments. My heart has never been so touched with the amount of love and support I got on this post, and I'm so sorry if it took too long to post an update. I was honestly in so much shock I didn't know how to cope with it. So, I never got back to my ex. I didn't know what to do, but eventually he must have given my phone number to my parents as they texted asking to meet up. I never replied and was planning on organizing a Zoom meeting, but didn't need to as they also showed up at my door. Well, my father did. When I answered the door and saw him standing there, I ended up throwing up, which he insisted on cleaning. When he was done, we sat down and I just bursted into tears. My emotions were all over the place and my father has worn the same cologne for a really long time, so when I smelt it, it just brought back all these memories. He tried to hug me, but I pushed him away and asked what he was doing here. He went on to explain that he and my mother are getting a divorce. He said he begged my mother to get in touch with me the minute I left, but she refused and said I was acting like a baby, and if I wanted to leave them after doing something so horrible, then I could do things on my own from then on. I asked him why he didn't listen to my side of the story, and why did they throw me away so easily. He just started crying. He said he never meant for things to get so out of hand, and he wishes more than anything that he could take it all back. I said when they found out Nikki was taking drugs and had dropped out of high school, they didn't throw her away. Instead, we all went on a holiday so she could focus on things besides drugs, and during that trip, she got hooked on alcohol, and each time, they defended her over and over. He said he had no idea my mother was going to kick me out. He thought it was going to be for a few days, but then they decided the last minute to spend Christmas out of state. My mother apparently promised him I would be allowed back home after they got back. I said she threw away all my stuff, but he said everything was still there, and she lied about that. I asked him what has happened to Nikki, and he said she is dead to him. He wants nothing to do with her, but my mother has been crying to him, asking to forgive Nikki as she is not well and they have already lost one daughter, they cannot lose two. To block my mother and Nikki has been on my ex's case about finding me. My ex caved in when my dad said he blocked my mother and Nikki told him where I lived. I asked what would happen now, and I said I really don't know and that he hurt me really bad. I then just went into detail about how much he hurt me and what it felt like seeing them so happy without me and how hard it has been. We were both crying by the end of it, but I was really glad I got it all out. It felt like a huge weight had been lifted off of my shoulders. My dad then said he knew a few places around the area and would help get me a better apartment. And he said he would help get me a better job, but I told him I wouldn't be leaving this job as my boss has helped me out so much and I wanted to repay him at all costs. I said I didn't want him to do anything for me, but I said I do want to reconcile, but it has to be on my own terms. And it was going to take a very, very long time to trust him again, and I may never trust him again. He said he would do anything to make up for what he did. I asked him why Nikki did this and if she said anything about it. Well, she said she thought my ex deserved better than me and she wanted to see him happy because he was making too many sacrifices in the relationship. She loved him like a brother and wanted to break the engagement off, so that night she asked her friend to come and escort me out of the club so she could get photos and to take me home so her plan could work. She said nothing sexual happened. Went to sleep on the sofa and that was it. He was up playing video games all night until I woke up, which he has proof of apparently. My dad was planning on getting my stuff from my mother's house and bringing it to me, but I told him I didn't want those things anymore. I then went to ask about Nikki's husband and he said my mother has been hush-hush about with the entire situation, but he had his number and wrote it down for me. After my dad left, I decided to call Nikki's husband. I was sweating the entire time and felt so sick. What if I could hear her in the background? Well, anyhow, when he picked up, I just spit out everything, which I deeply regret because I should have eased into it for him. He sounded really confused and I explained the entire situation again. I even went into detail about her drug and alcohol problems. I was honestly expecting him to curse me out and defend Nikki. Instead, he let out a long sigh and, well, it turns out he had a feeling she wasn't exactly innocent. Turns out her and his sister had been having problems and she has been spouting nonstop lies about his sister and has caused a huge rift between them. His sister didn't even attend their wedding. I told him hey, time for another Out of This World story from our space. Today on our space, a broken heart and a broken home. A good man tries to make sense of his wife's betrayal. Can he overcome the pain and take the high road? Follow along to find out. Wife cheated. Accepts. Hello. I've been a lurker here for a little while, trying to process infidelity in my life. Long story short, wife and I have been married 8 years. Together, few years longer total, and have 2 small kids. This year's been tough, and we have had our arguments, but nothing that I would ever think would push my wife to cheat. Anyways, I noticed her lately being distant and being uncommunicative and decided to confront her one evening. At that time, she said that she was not happy and couldn't feel a spark anymore. At first, I freaked out on myself, thinking I was being a non-attentive husband, truthfully an issue. However, the next day, I caught a very strange message on her phone that was extremely lovey-dovey. I took a look and then found my wife was messaging a man for a long time with lots of I love yous and plans for a future together. Effing destroyed. Anyways, taking the advice of the many threads on here, I did confront initially. I actually read as much as I could, contacted a couple of lawyers for advice, one now on retainer, and got my head on straight and calm. I confronted my wife a couple days ago calmly and asked if she was having an affair, and after a couple of minutes, she admitted everything. Long story short, it's been going on for 6 months, and she claims it's the deepest emotional connection ever. Complete BS, but whatever. To end it all, I gave my list of boundaries. Cut off contact, marriage counseling, etc. The thing that I think is the final nail of an honest attempt to reconcile is she got extremely aggravated with cutting off contact, especially when I told her to do it in front of me and even insisted to see him one last time for closure. I effing held my ground and told her if he is so important, pack a bag and go live with him, to which she backed off, but not before she told me I was a controlling a-hole. Anyways, she sent a text this morning and showed me, but my spidey senses seem to think she will try a different means of communication. I'm thinking there is no hope, and I honestly don't want it at this point, but I just wanted to be able to tell my kids in 20 years I at least tried. We have marriage counseling tomorrow, but I'm thinking it's time to file before wasting any time or grief. I'm cautious to move too fast because of my kids, but is this the right way to do it? The OP continued in the comments. Wow, this thread got big fast. Thanks for the awesome comments. It's been helpful to get validation. I had the paperwork filled out with my lawyer. They just need to process it, and I will have to pick a date to have her served. You're all right. This will not end well if I do go the doormat route. I need to think about my future and my kids and move on. One person responds, it honestly is great to see someone not be a doormat in this situation. Honestly, good on you for playing it smart. It will suck, but keep that rage on red hot. Don't let it cool down because you are keeping your head in the game. You will thank yourself later for this. Your kids will also once they are capable of understanding. I would actually consider keeping the evidence locked away in case she ever tries telling the children a different story, so they can see it with their own eyes. Probably too extreme and not a good parent thing to do, to go that scorched earth and salt the fields. Honestly, I think you would be doing your children a disservice if you stayed with a woman like that. Kids aren't dumb. They catch on to things. If they see you allowing yourself to be mistreated, they'd allow themselves to be mistreated with whatever toxic partners they would gravitate towards later in life. If your wife insists to see a fair partner one last time, you know for certain it's never, ever going to be the last time. Update. The past few weeks, simply put, sucked, but it's given me time for a lot of soul searching and thinking. As an update from the previous thread, the wife and I did attend some counseling after the initial confrontation, and I will say this particular counselor had been very good about listening to both of us and not assigning blame or anything like that, and helping to navigate our new reality. She has also helped to uncover some structural issues in our relationship, and while it doesn't at all excuse my wife's behavior, it's helpful at least knowing for a future relationship and not repeating the same mistakes. As also mentioned in the thread, my wife's initial reaction to my boundary to cut off contact with the affair partner appeared to go unheeded, and I did catch small messages between them before she completely went dark with her chat, logs, and phone. After seeing that, I decided to file, and she was served a few days ago, and in parallel, I decided to have a heart-to-heart with my father-in-law, as we are super close and I needed to prioritize this support for our kids versus our relationship, as I could see my wife wanted to sweep this under a rug. Needless to say, my wife was initially extremely upset. Her fantasy was blown up, but her therapist did talk it through with her from my point of view on why this needed to happen, and I think she has started to realize the consequence of her actions and start to see there are real things that are going to be lost. From here on out, I'm just trying to process the new life ahead and the huge change in my identity from a husband, father, to something else. Same with her. I will say, since I filed, my wife was immediately shocked when it dropped that on her, and she's been very emotional these past few days. I honestly think she thought I would never be able to walk away. I've kept her at arm's length, but I have seen a distinct change in her, and on a positive note, we have talked more, kept our conversation civil, and focused on our shared priorities, children mostly. I made it very clear to her that she left a huge wound on me and that she has to do the heavy lifting to help repair and give me space and time if I can ever begin to forgive. I'll say it again and again. Her actions are the most selfish, self-centered, horrible thing you could do to a person. But I have not lost sight that we still need to raise our children, and that is my focus point as I navigate how I will move forward to the next phase of my personal happiness. I wanted to thank everyone for the previous comments and insight. I'm honestly proud that I found the strength to not wallow in self-pity, anger, or sadness, and was able to make the right moves to retain my dignity and look forward to the bright future. I honestly don't know all the next moves, and my feelings are constantly in flux, but I'm starting to feel some inner peace. Thank you all again. Small update. I'm in the post-serving part and working closely with my counsel. What I'm looking for is if any betrayed spouses here took advantage of the affair fog to get better divorce terms and how you pulled it off. My soon-to-be ex-wife is clearly deep in the fog, still seeing, contacting a affair partner, which, at the moment, I haven't bothered her since is a good distraction. What did people get agreements on that were unexpected? Any advice is greatly appreciated on how to move through this phase, and also to keep her off balance is also helpful. Besides Grey Rock and 180, I've been going out much more unexpectedly and not divulging details of my activity. Update. Advice Grey Rocking during divorce proceedings. Hi everyone. I posted a few threads about my ongoing saga, but the abridged version is wife cheated. I caught her. She gave me the I love you, but not in love. And affair partner is the greatest emotional connection ever. BS. And has circle truth, gaslit, everything through the script. I then proceeded to drop papers on her, and well, here we are a few weeks later. Long story short now. In the post-serving phase and have to cohabitate for now since I want to spend as much time with my children as possible. I'm now in a separate room too, so this has helped me begin to get that distance. I've implemented the Grey Rock with my soon-to-be ex-wife, generally trying not to be interested in any discussion, but I have to fake it a little, especially with kids around. They're still small, but try to be upbeat as they can sense a lot. I'm also not making myself available in the evening, going out with friends, working out, whatever. Any other advice on how to best handle the situation? It's a delicate balance. I want as much bonding time with my kids and have sucked it up for family dinners and whatnot. Any other do's and don'ts? Honestly, it seems like you're making all the right moves, OP. The best thing you can do right now is your children. As you said earlier, your children look back and see how you treated their mother as you were going through this will speak volumes of your character. It will serve as a huge lesson on how to treat others who have wronged you. You're a great father, OP. Update. I've made a few posts prior, and to those that don't know the story, it's simply, wife cheated, greatest emotional attachment ever, love you but not in love, etc. I threw down papers, and well, I'm just over 1.5 months after D-Day and working like hell to move on. The purpose of this post is not for any update. All I can say is the process is ongoing and I will give the appropriate update at the right time, likely a while. My only request is for anyone that has gone through the process, please share any good advice, lessons learned, things you would have done differently, or good things to know. The advice in the previous posts have been super helpful, and those that have reached out in other ways have been incredible. Just reaching out in case there is more that can help. Update. She cheated, but I'm made to feel like the a-hole. Hey everyone. My story can be found in my post history, but long story short as always. Wife cheated, found her greatest emotional turd ever. I threw down papers, and the train is riding to D-Town. Just wanted to get some stories on how folks dealt with in-laws, friends, etc., making you out to be a bad guy. I did get the jump after filing and told some of the in-laws. My family and some friends, but I didn't broadcast too wide as I wanted to keep some things quiet. That being said, I know my soon-to-be ex-wife likely threw down her side, and well, I'm getting some cold vibes from a lot of her family and some other folks. I know blood is thicker than water, but it sucks when your close family turns their backs despite being a good dad and the wife being an immoral turd. Did people start to see stuff later on and change their opinion, or just stop caring and moving on? I think it's inevitable for people to take sides in situations like this, but those who choose to believe her were never really loyal to you anyways, were they? You don't need people like that anyways. You only need to focus on your kids. You only need to focus on your side of the court. At the end of the day, you know what happened. You know the truth. That's all that matters. Update. Hi everyone. As of today, there is some closure coming my way in my saga that started over the summer and have been posting getting advice from everyone here. I just want to start off and thank this community for the incredible support and advice, especially to those folks who privately messaged and offered words of wisdom along the way. This is a crappy process to go through, especially when close family is far away. It sucks to be alone with your thoughts, but there is some wisdom and introspection to gain during this. For those that need a recap, one of the many threads is below, but the TLDR is my wife cheated and tried to hide it. I found out, Realized there was no hope as she was deep in the fog with the affair partner and immediately filed on her. Anyways, the past few months have been frosty, but relatively drama-free as the soon-to-be ex and I separated our lives in the house, but still did things for our children. The discovery and mediation process proceeded pretty quickly. We agreed on 50-50 for our kids along with schedules and holidays, and since it's a no-fault state, asset division was by the book with some give and take. I won't go into details too much at this time, maybe another post in the future, but I will be finding a place soon for a fresh start. The final conclusion is on the horizon, but for the most part, the D is complete. As for my advice from this whole fiasco, I learned a bunch of things. 1. Don't bother with the pick-me dance. I tried for a week before wising up to her cheating. My soon-to-be ex is still in the fog, but it's her decision. She needs to live with it. 2. Do lawyer up with an experienced family law attorney who is reasonable. I can't say enough of the person who took care of me. Understanding that this is what I want versus reality was important in converging to the end. I don't have any crazy ridiculous fees as I did a lot of the prep and avoided hours and hours of back and forth, and this was able to be settled rather quickly. 3. Do lean on friends and family to support as much as possible. 4. Working out, exercise is key to keeping your mental health. I hit the weights a month after D-Day and I'm starting to reap the benefits, and that confidence has been helpful to get across the finish line. 5. Get into individual counseling and talk with someone. This has helped me tremendously. 6. I realized this from all the posts I read, but the cheater's decisions are all on them. I heard it all from my soon-to-be ex. I was a roommate. I love you, not in love. Our marriage went so wrong. I worked too much, blah, blah. Truth be told, now that I know the timeline, our marriage went wrong after she invited someone in her life that was feeding her lines that stroke her ego and give her extra attention, and she had to put up walls and make me the bad guy to justify this in her mind. Sure, she may have been stressed from kids' day-to-day life and a long-term marriage, but not communicating to her husband and confiding in a 2-time divorced cheater with no moral compass is all on her and a recipe for disaster. The exciting final chapter of Captain Sacknuts, Freeman A. Cheese, 5-year plan Sid affair partner is yet to be written, but poor choices carry consequences. That is all I will say on the matter. Again, thank you to everyone. I still have a lot of work ahead, but also many adventures in this new chapter of my life. I hope I can return the favor to anyone who needs it. Please reach out if anyone needs a helping hand. I am here. Update. As your ex pushed to still be in your life after divorce? Got a question for the group. I post history details, the greatest emotional connection love story ever, haha. I'm not so far away from moving into my own place. As I have a couple of kids with my soon-to-be ex and also for legal reasons, I have remained in our marital house as this process has taken place. I have posted a couple other threads of the ongoing saga. Thankfully, the light is at the end of the tunnel for me soon. Obviously, I have to co-parent with my cheating ex and will be friendly for that, but I have been firm in saying she killed our marriage and by default, any sort of friendship. I have no room in my life for a lying cheater. She has, however, been insistent about wanting to be there for me, promising to help decorate my new house, and keeping holiday traditions for the kids. Again, I have remained firm in saying she torpedoed our relationship and wanted to replace me, so I'm simply giving her that wish, and even gone as far as to say she won't be a welcome guest in my house. Has anyone had this happen with the ex wanting to hang around? I'd have to guess it's some sort of optic. If we are friends, the split can't be so bad. So far, affair partner has not shown his face and she tries to hide it, but I know it's a matter of time before the greatest emotional connection gets to go live. I have no desire to ever be in the same room as them two anyways, but will remain outside the blast radius with popcorn when the whole thing goes up in flames. Thanks as always to this awesome group. Some group has some responses. First one, she's doing it for herself. It would absolve her partially from her guilt, at least in her mind. It would mean that the betrayal and hurt cannot be that big of a deal if you still let her be in your inner circle. Don't let her. DOP replies, yep, I know she is always concerned with image management, constantly posting on social media, etc. I've been letting my social media dry up anyways for my mental health, but she is definitely not in my inner circle, where I've been sharing my thoughts, plans with her. The individual says, she's doing it as a control tactic. She's taking advantage of the fact that she has a new shag locked and loaded, ready to go, and you don't. Help you decorate your new house? AKA, she's trying to take control and put her stamp on your new...
My wife of 11 years and I joined a weight loss program, shedding pounds and gaining fitness, only for my wife to flex her disloyalty. After I walked in on her full-body workout with her personal trainer, I divorced her and got him fired.
Before we start, text the like button from an unknown number saying, "Enjoy the next 24 hours." Warning. The following story will be upsetting to cheaters.
Oh boy. Here we go. English is not my native language, but I'll do my best. I'm a 44-year-old man married to my 39-year-old soon-to-be ex. We've been married for 11 years, no kids. We were a pretty chubby couple until 2 years ago when I had a blood test done and it came out that I was prone to contracting diabetes, gout, and hypertension. It really scared me, so we both bit by bit started to dedicate ourselves to a very healthy lifestyle. I went from 117 to 85 kilograms, and my wife, let's call her Jane, from 83 to 65 kilograms. We felt great, and needless to say, I never developed those diseases. We attended to a gym almost daily in the afternoon, where a coach worked. Let's call him Baldy. When my wife started getting in shape, I noticed most guys turned to see her. I felt so proud of her. She is fairly busty, and she has these magnificent long-toned legs. When Jane and I were regulars at the gym, I noticed she was enjoying the attention she got from men. Of course, Baldy wasn't the exception. I noticed Baldy likes to check women's butts like a sport. I've seen him doing it several times, and he likes to show off how ripped he is. Once we were using the elliptical machines. In front of them, there is a cable machine. Baldy took off his t-shirt and started doing crossovers. I turned to Jane with my face of, "Can you believe this guy?" But she was staring at him and I saw she wet her lips. I saw Baldy noticed, and I swear he was grinning. I felt humiliated. I was getting in shape, but I am not as muscular and fit as he is. When we were driving home, I made a comment about Baldy showing off, and Jane said, "Really? I didn't notice." I told her, "You were staring." She said, "I don't remember. I must have been thinking about something else." I shrugged it off and kept driving. But from there on, I noticed they were talking more frequently at the gym. Some weeks later, Jane was doing squats using the Smith machine. Suddenly, Baldy went to help her. Isn't he nice? He grabbed her by the waist and I got angry. She finished the first set and I got there and told him, in a not-so-nice way, "I got it from here." Baldy just smiled and told me, "No probs, buddy." He calls everybody buddy, and walked off like a triumphant pigeon. Jane knows me very well, and when she heard my angry tone, she said, "My God, OP." I told her, "We'll discuss this at home." At home, drama blew up. She called me immature and jealous. I told her I noticed he was trying to get into her pants. She said that she knows that he's trying to, but she would never cheat on me. I asked, then why she let him touch her, and she said she didn't want to be rude. Seriously? About an hour later, arguing, we agreed to change gym. So we went to another place to exercise, but Jane was resentful at me in the following months. Her argument was that I don't trust her. On the third month after we changed gym, a very good opportunity opened up in my job, but in the afternoon. We discussed it and I took it, so we had to attend the gym at different hours. I went in the morning and Jane in the afternoon. This is when it all went south. Jane's resentment increased and we barely spoke. I send her messages telling her about my day, that I miss her, memes, but she rarely replied or just sends the typical, "Yes, okay, same here, ha ha ha." I was very worried and proposed couple therapy. She said I was the one who needs therapy because I'm the one with trust issues. I agreed. I was so desperate to fix our marriage that I thought it was all my fault. So the following year, 2022, I went to therapy, but Jane's behavior didn't change. We weren't intimate anymore because she never was in the mood. I had to shift gear. I snooped to her phone but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. I looked into her car for a second phone. Nothing. I checked her phone again to see her map history. It only showed me the GPS locations: house to work, house to the gym, back to the house. Whenever I tried to talk to her, she just said she feels that she's having a 40s phase. It'll pass. I never had any evidence of cheating, so I continued working, grinding and worrying. We live in a condo. The security guard, a very cheerful man called Mr. P, greeted me. We chat a lot. He was touching his shoulder and told me yesterday he had to move a heavy sofa, and he has some pain today. I was sympathetic to his pain, and as we were discussing it, he dropped the bomb. Maybe you can arrange a meeting with your massagist." I told him, "Who?" He said, "The guy who came yesterday to massage Mrs. Jane." It took me a second to process this. I told him, "Do you have a video of him?" I think he noticed I was pale and hurried to show me. Guess who? Baldy, of course. He has come a few times to massage my wife. I took the day off and started investigating. I asked a coworker for his car, and I followed Jane in the afternoon. She parked her car at the mall where the gym is, and there he is. Baldy, waiting for her. They giggle and behave like an actual couple. Kisses, hugs, the whole shabam, and I feel myself being torn from the inside out. They walk a couple of blocks and go into a residential area. I tried to follow them with my phone ready to record, but the guard stopped me and asked, "Can I help you?" I just said, "What a nice couple, do you know them?" He said he thinks they are newlyweds but can't tell me anything else. I called Jane, but she never answered. I went to her car in the mall and wondered why that place doesn't show on the map. I dial again and I can hear her phone inside her car. That's why. I also found out Jane hasn't attended the gym in 8 months. I didn't know that the previous night was the last day I slept with Jane in the same bed, but now I'm sure of that. I returned the car and went home and called my parents. Fortunately, my dad answered and I told him everything. I was crying and he comforted me and told me, "Get evidence." Obviously, my marriage is over, and I need all I can gather while he'll contact one of his friends who is an excellent divorce lawyer. Jane called me when she saw the 2 missing calls. I just told her I was already at home and she told me,
I'm on my way from the gym. My butt is killing me.
"Yeah, I can guess." When she saw me, she asked,
What happened? Why did you cry?
I don't know how, but I was mentally focused. I smiled and told her I got the flu. That's why I left work early. "Don't come near me. It might be the bug, and I'll be tested first thing tomorrow. I'll sleep in the spare room." She agreed. I was hurting silently and didn't sleep a wink. Nearly midnight, I heard her giggling. I guess she's messaging Baldy, but I didn't find any evidence of contacting another man. Then it hit me. Why didn't I see it earlier? I bet her affair partner is disguised as one of her female co-workers. In the morning, while Jane was in the shower, I took her phone and created a session in my laptop and put her phone back in the same place. We both can unlock our phones. The session works while the phone is close to my laptop or in the same Wi-Fi account. Then I saw it. Under a female name, the profile picture was a dumbbell. I entered and most of the conversations were deleted. I guess they use work words as code in case I snooped. "Can you deliver the papers on my desk?" I know she doesn't have a desk at work. "Going to the meeting, where are you?" On top of them, "Boss is in his office. He's clueless." Pretty clever, that one. I guess I am boss because I know her boss is a woman. Jane got out of the shower and saw me. She said,
You look worse. Why don't you stay with your parents?
I denied the idea, thinking of getting evidence. After Jane went out, I contacted my dad, and he gave me the name and number of the lawyer. I called him and explained everything. He told me the captions I took from my laptop are useless. They don't have any factual evidence since Baldy's name isn't used as her affair partner, and she was smart enough to leave pieces of conversation that looks pretty innocent. I can take pictures of them at the mall, but she can argue they are just good fellas, and I can't invade into the residential area without permission, because it might get me into more trouble. At work, I was in zombie mode, thinking how to get evidence. I might install secret cameras in my house, but Baldy rarely goes to my home and Jane might find them. Unless I'm out of the picture. I texted Jane and told her I'm positive of the bug and I'll stay at my parents' because I might need help. She liked the idea and told me she would miss me, but she'll call me every day. When I hung up, I called my dad and my brother. When I got home, she had already packed a suitcase for me. She was so eager of getting rid of me. I told her I'll take my laptop, and then I checked her messages. "Boss will be out of the office. Want to come to my desk?" She sent this message almost directly after I told her I was positive to the bug. "Good," she bit. We didn't have dinner, no kisses, no hugs. I noticed her watching her Apple Watch twice. From the door, I told her, "I'll miss you." I was expecting her to shut the door on my face, but she walked me to my car, and I was gone. My dad and brother were outside the building waiting for Baldy to appear, but he didn't show up. After half an hour, I thought, why did she walk me to my car? Of course, because Baldy was already inside the building waiting, perhaps inside her car. It would be very suspicious if her massagist came at this hour. I came back, hurried to my house, and entered silently. I heard music coming from the bedroom and the moaning. Next to the door there is a sofa. His and her clothes were on it. I put my phone to record and opened the bedroom door, and there she was. My wife, the love of my life for 11 years in all 4, and Baldy behind her. I got a very good seconds of both of their shocked faces when they saw me open the door. Jane screamed and covered herself with the blanket. Baldy went alpha male, immediately walking naked towards me. I took a dramatic shot of him wearing no protection. He yelled aggressively at me,
"Why don't go for a walk, buddy?"
I hit his throat with my hand opened. I saw this movement in the Mel Gibson movie, Ransom. The next second, Baldy was coughing and gasping, kneeling on the floor. I yelled, "Get out of my house," and kicked him out. I threw his clothes at him when my dad, brother, and Mr. P were arriving to my house. I told them, "I'll take it from here," and closed the door. Jane was still on the bed covering herself. She was trembling. I told her, "I have never hurt you, nor will I. Get dressed. I'll wait for you in the living room." While I was waiting, I sent the video to my lawyer and he answered, "I'm sorry for you, but jackpot." A few minutes later, Jane showed up. She couldn't look me in the eyes. I started recording the conversation. I asked why. She didn't answer. "Was I such an awful husband to you?" She started crying but didn't answer. "Do you love him?" She shook her head, but no words. I stood up and hit the table. "Say something, Jane. Damn it." She opened her eyes wide and started trembling again like a scared puppy. I have never yelled at her before. I sat and talked calmly. "My lawyer will contact you for the divorce. Get a lawyer." She finally spoke.
We can fix this.
"Fix what? Our marriage was over since Baldy was in the picture, and you choose him over me." She said,
It was a mistake.
I told her, "No, it wasn't. It was a choice you chose, and this is the consequence. What did you think would happen when I find out?" Silence again. "Go to your sisters and tell her the truth, or I will show what I walked into." She went to the bedroom and started packing. I followed her and watched. Since 2 days ago, I was trying to convince myself my wife is long gone. The person who I shared my house with is not my wife. But seeing her, putting her clothes inside the suitcase neatly, with her gracious movements and those little things I love of her, hit me hard. I went to the spare room and started ugly crying. I heard when she closed the main door. She picked her clothes that were on the sofa. She made the bed where I caught them, and I dropped on the floor. Sometime later, I called my dad. He told me Baldy wanted to press charges, but Mr. P told him he didn't sign in, so he's trespassing. The condo can sue him. He dropped it and went out. My nosy brother pressed his ear on the door, and my dad took him from the other ear to his car. I was exhausted. The previous days I didn't sleep well, so I almost passed out on the spare room. Next morning, my phone had a lot of Jane's messages apologizing and asking for a second chance. I just blocked her. My sister-in-law called me. Apparently Jane hasn't told her what happened, just that we're fighting. All this happened a week ago. Next week, Jane is going to be served. I guess it's good my father-in-law is not alive to see Jane's behavior. She was the youngest and his favorite. Mother-in-law has senile dementia.